Okay, let's get into the nitty gritty of it, because I forgot to do this for a long time, and I'm kind of fucking brain dead for doing it. Okay, so let's just start with what everything does. So we'll use the left stick as our example piece, but both the left stick and the right stick work the exact same way. Dead zone initial, to keep it as simple as possible, is where your input's gonna start. So if we have our dead zone at 2, it's gonna start at 2%. We have our dead zone at 15, it's going to start at 15%, etc. Right? Now, on the other end of this line is max threshold, right? Now, this is how far you have to move the stick in order for it to hit max speed on the stick. So maximum output. That means that, let's say we were at 80%, right? That means we need to move our stick 80% of the way to hit max input, right? So you could imagine it akin to like looser tension, you know? So I keep my left stick really low so that way we can get into our max strafe by just moving 20% of our stick. We want to get into it as fast as possible, and that's my methodology behind it. Same thing goes for here. So this is why I have a dead zone set on my left stick, because I put an anti-deadzone initial on my left stick as well. Now, what anti-deadzone initial is going to do is it's going to jumpstart us. It's going to kickstart it that 16%. So we're going to start at 16.3 each way we go. And we're going to just be jumping there, right? So if I'm inputting, jump. And if I'm inputting on both, then it's going to focus on one axis at a time. It's like the opposite of dead zone, where if we put a 2 dead zone, it won't activate until 2%. If we put a 2 anti-dead zone, it's going to jump straight to 2%. On the flip side, where dead zone max threshold sped everything up, anti-dead zone max threshold caps it off, right? So let's say I want my stick to be capped, 10% lower, I don't want to reach the top 10% of the stick, okay? Then we can go ahead and put an anti-dead zone max threshold of 89, right? And as you can see, it won't go past that point. That's where we're capped off. So that's used in a lot of different games, just to be able to eliminate things like I do on the right stick with acceleration, right? We want to have as small of an acceleration range as possible. We want it to exist so we can turn around fast, but we want to play within the small range to keep everything way more linear. And on top of that, play with that grab of the aim assist a little bit more. And then lastly, we have curve adjustments as well. So what these do is going to change the trajectory of the stick to get to max input, right? So for myself, I play with dynamic on the right stick at 67. And when it's at 67 or anything above 50, that means that the initial is accelerated and the ending slows down. So once we hit middle, it's actually going to be a little slower after we hit the midway point of our curve. You can mess around with things like this. From what I've heard, full linear is going to be raw 65 with long curve. Everything maxed. So this would be the proper curve. At least that's what I've heard. You would have to mess around with things yourself, get a good feel for it, and let me know afterwards. Or even in the comment section below too. Next up is stick trajectory. Now, to put this simple, this is just going to be the range in which our stick is. So, as you can see in raw, it's more of a square or like boxed with expanded corners. And circle, it's going to be just your regular joystick. That's the most simple way to put it. And within the settings, when you go to advanced mapping, you can also set the XY sensitivity scale on the stick. So this is a different way to use anti-deadzone. So think about so for me, I put it at 51, right? So that actually takes a percent off of the horizontal rather than the vertical. So this allows you to adjust either your X or your Y specifically, rather than going through the anti-deadzone outer threshold and lowering it and capping off both. It just allows for you to be a little bit more individualistic with it. There is caps in Apex, From what I understand, at least when you're at XY 51, it's going to be sitting at 91.1. Things like that, you're going to have to mess with. I've reached out to different players. I don't believe this is a one-size-fits-all type thing, you know? Knowing what these settings do is the most important thing. I don't believe you should just copy and paste what I use personally, because, you know, it can really hold you back. You know, there's tons of opportunity for you to dive in and figure out what works best for you. The reason for these applications is for personal preference, right? To adjust sticks, buttons, layout, etc. to your liking, right? You shouldn't just go and copy and paste somebody's settings and be done with it. Make it yours. And that's the whole thing about being an individual, right? We shouldn't go and copy and paste somebody's settings and think we're gonna nuke on it, right? They were made for them. So just make sure you spend some time in the range, messing around with the settings, feeling what's best for you. Lastly, on the joystick section, we have resolution / bitrate. So what is joystick resolution? It's the amount of steps that your controller is going to take on its path, or the amount of data points that your controller is going to send along its path, right? So this allows for better micro adjustments. So imagine I move my stick 10%, right? On an 8-bit stick, it's got 256 steps. On a 12-bit stick, it's got over 4,000 steps. So how does this change how I'm shooting? Well, this is going to allow for more micro adjustments. But because there's more individual data points along that path, right, or along your curve, this may lead to it feeling snappy. This may lead to it feeling a little too responsive to the point where you're microing maybe more than you'd like. So this allows you to smooth things out. Now, unfortunately, as of right now, April 25th, 2026, there is a bug with the current firmware. Anything above 10-bit, perfectly fine. The controller will work as intended. The issue lies when we go to 8-bit or 9-bit. Now, in order for us to test this, we need to actually use something from the Mary's Board Company. Fucking awesome tool. Huge shout out to them. And we're going to go in here. So we're going to copy and paste this. We're going to go in here. We're going to paste it in here. Going to hit enter. Now we're going to go ahead and test our USB device. So we're going to hit enter again. We're capturing. So we're going to just move our sticks. And this is going to tell us what the controller is polling at. I don't understand why this happens. I could not tell you. But as you can see, we're not polling at 8,000. We're actually polling as low as 2,600, which is very weird, right? That is an incredible variance from top range being 8,000 to your bottom range being 2,600, right? Now, that means you're going to have weird stuttery feeling. Your controller itself isn't responding how it should be. I don't know the answer to this. I can't tell you why this is happening. But what I can tell you is that it's directly attached to this bitrate, because when we go and we make our bitrate 10, okay, that is much more appropriate. Okay, so this is within our range, lows only being 7,400. That's weird that 10-bit's doing that. That's good to know. So honestly, I'd suggest anything above 10. Just to make sure, let's go and do a little test at 12, see what the big difference is. And as of right now, with it being attached to one another, 150%, you should not be using anything lower. Now, this is different from when I did the test the other day, even. So this is, like I said, it feels like they did an update with the firmware again without actually doing a full update. Yeah, the numbers are higher. I would suggest, especially since the averages are better on 12, I would suggest playing 12-bit. Absolutely incredible that we can have a controller release and have such a distinct issue attached to one of the main points in the app. Now, this is not a shot at them. I love GameSir. I love everything they do. I really hope they get this solved, because this leads to a really clunky feeling, and obviously people should have the choice of what steps or how many data points are taken when they're doing their curves. Because 67 dynamic curve is going to feel different on 12-bit comparatively to 8-bit. For some people, 8's going to feel smoother. For some people, 10's going to feel smoother. You know, the reality is that this shouldn't be a bug, right? You should have the choice. You should be able to go down to 8-bit. The fact that bit rate and polling rate aren't directly attached, again, it doesn't really make sense to me. I don't quite understand why when we drop the bit rate, it affects our polling rate. I don't understand the software behind it. The one thing I do know is that should be something that's made clear to people if it is something that's intended. And if not, it does need to be resolved as quickly as possible because that's clearly a bug within the firmware. And we'll talk more about some of the other bugs that we've seen in just a little bit. So you might be asking yourself, what am I looking at? This is hid-hide. And what is hid-hide? Well, as you can see on your screen here, it's an input device firewall. Okay? So in simpler terms, it's allowing us to hide a specific device, or it's allowing us to stop an input from double inputting, right? Because when we have an application or a software that we're using, it's going to have our base controller, the hardware that we're using itself, right? And then it's going to have the software, our virtual gamepad that it's projecting. Now, I know tons of people probably use controllers and they're wondering, why does my controller not feel as smooth as I feel it should? Or why does it feel like the adjustments that I'm making are way looser or aren't working as intended? Well, this could be because the original input itself is interfering. Now, how do we stop this? Well, that's what hid-hide is here for. What we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to find what is the base device. Now, in our instance, since we're using a GameSir 8K Hertz controller, it's going to be the Guangzhou Chicken Run Network Technology Co. Limited Gamepad. Whew, what a fucking mouthful. We're going to go ahead and we're going to enable device hiding. We're going to hide this device. Now, you might not see it in gaming devices. It might just be listed under general devices. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to make sure it's locked. We don't want it interfering with our PC whatsoever. We don't want it interfering with any applications whatsoever. So once we have that hidden, as you can see here, we're going to just go ahead, disconnect, reconnect our controller, and we no longer have to worry about that double inputting. Lastly, I don't understand why this is happening either. It is an X input device. I am not in DS4 mode or DualShock 4 mode. I'm not in Switch mode. I am in X input mode. And I can prove this by unplugging my controller and replugging it in. And we're identifying as X input, right? The second that I lower the dead zones, we are recognizing as a PS4 controller. I don't know if this has any impact. I don't know why this is happening either. These are just little things that I've noticed throughout the time that I've been using this controller. With that finished though, understanding what these settings do, understanding that, hey, we have a ton of accessibility, we have a ton of ways for us to make this our own. Is the controller itself good? I'm at a bit of an impasse when it comes to that. I do think it's a great product. For its price, I really don't think anything else compares.